All right, here we are somewhere in Missouri, and I'm dressed up, so that can only mean one thing. We've been having, that wrench is loud, we've been having a leak out of the oil pan here, this oil pan gasket, and it's gotten progressively worse. And it started dumping out a bunch of oil last time I stopped. I was just kind of topping it off. It needed like a quart every 1,000 miles or so. What may have happened is I may have overfilled it, and the oil level is supposed to be higher than that pan, or I overfilled it. So when I stopped and the fluid level settled, I think it just came gushing out the side there where that gasket's missing. But I'm not going to take any chances with it here. The weather's nice, and we've got plenty of time this afternoon. So I mean, I think we're like 20 something hours into the trip now, so it's made it quite a ways. It's probably still fine to go all the way there. Again, I'm just not going to take a chance with it at this point. I'm going to pull that oil pan off, and got some new oil, so and some new gasket maker. So we're gonna try and get this oil pan sealed up here in the parking lot. Here we go. All right, so good news, bad news. Good news is it wasn't really leaking as much as I thought. It looks like probably when I was stopped and that level rose, that fluid, that oil started coming out of the side. The bad news is it's not the oil pan gasket. If let's pop our head over here and look. At some point, somehow or another, this little tongue here to mount the oil cooler on broke off. So that's where it's leaking from, is in between there. I've got a couple bolts there undone. I'm not going to do anything crazy here, especially since it was holding enough fluid to drive on. I'm going to pry that down. I'm going to clean it out, pry that down a little bit, and just squirt a bunch of gasket maker in there. Somebody had used some JB Weld, and it was working fine when I bought this, so probably just vibrations over the trip loosened that up. But I'm going to try and get some gasket maker under there, and hopefully just get that to seal up somehow or another, and make it back on the road. So we'll hopefully be on the road here in just a minute after I get this cleaned up. And I got a little pry bar I'm gonna just put in here, pull down on the pan just enough to stick that nozzle of that former gasket in there and just fill it up. All right, not any footage of getting that done, but I took 3 bolts out and tried to squirt some in there. I think it would be fine to continue driving as was, so my hope is that at least this makes it a lot better. So we'll check down here. I'm gonna finish cleaning up all this old oil residue, and we'll clean all this up and check back and see if we can fix that leak up or not. And yeah, there's a couple options running around my head what I'm gonna do, but I mean, pieces of the block broken off are never preferable, but I think it's salvageable / manageable. I'll be able to do something with it. But yeah, well, I'm gonna let this set up. It's a 1-minute gasket, but I'm gonna let it set up for a bit longer than that. And I'm gonna go ahead and recycle this oil across the street at my O'Reilly's over here. That's all they got. Well, they got this place too. And hopefully this does the trick. The oil filter's fine. I'm not gonna replace that. And hopefully this seals it up. So maybe I'll just go ahead and cake some more stuff on there, around there, and just to be safe-ish. I mean, it's hard to seal leaks from the outside, so to drop the pan is, you gotta jack the engine up, stuff like that. So I'm not willing to do that right now on the side of the road. This is what I'm gonna do. So we'll check back in, see how this goes later, and we'll probably hit the road here in a minute. All right, it's got 15.5 quarts in here. Well, it's supposed to be 15. I would see it dripping down off of these lines right here. We're clear right now, and we're clear over here. So we'll go ahead and drive this thing, and yeah, hopefully it just leaks less at least. Hopefully it doesn't leak at all is best. So here we go, finish up the last couple hours. All right, well, we're here in the bus. We're at my brother-in-law's place up here kind of in the woods in Kentucky, and my brother-in-law owns the home right here, and my father-in-law's new home that he's building is on the property right next door. And if I can open this window, I'll show you. There's that shed, their trailer they're gonna live in down there. Well, we've only been coming back and forth down the road a mile or so back between these. I'm starting to get some EGR problems in this bus driving around town. lack of power, a lot of smoke coming out, codes that are set for the EGR. So let's see, I can pull one up here. All right, sorry, I've got that inverter beeping in the background. Just a few more seconds, we'll be out of the truck. But I'm getting these EGR codes, this one here and this one here, their performance, EGR performance. These codes are hard set, so every time I try and clear them, they're just popping straight back up. And not just because of the codes, but because of the symptoms. I'm going to go ahead and pull that EGR valve. I called the AutoZone here in town, and they have an EGR valve in stock, so they're holding that for me. And we've got plenty of other vehicles over here to get back and forth across town. So later, I will get that EGR valve and put it in, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it out while we're here. We've got a fire going, and the kids are playing, and my father-in-law sharpening his chainsaw, and so we're all just kind of hanging out here for a bit. But well, you know, I have nothing to do. I've got that fire built up. I'm going to go ahead and pull that EGR valve, and we'll get the other new one in here later this afternoon. And this way I'll be able to see the gasket as well before I go get that new one, so I'll know if I should plan on replacing that gasket as well or not. Driving over here, I'm going to look, there's air coming in through the door here, so driving through like Wyoming and stuff, my legs were pretty cold, so I was looking at these vents. My vent was this one over there, and it didn't have any sort of way to adjust it, so I was drying my eyes out. So I'm trying to put the vent that worked over here, but the little fins are kind of broken, and so I may have done more harm than good. So I'll probably order more of these. I think I'm going to get a backup camera and a new radio to put in here, and a few more odds and ends, and I'll show you again later once that truck is... All right, so here we are. The EGR valve is right here. You're not going to be able to see it, and you can actually tell the back of my hand is red because I was trying to unplug it earlier. Well, I did successfully and plugged it back in. Sometimes will help the cause, but not in this case. So rather than, you know, obviously I'm not going to be able to squeeze my hand through this gap is where I was squeezing it through in this one as well. To replace the EGR, we're just going to do a couple things, like remove the air lines to the intercooler. And so to do that, first thing, we're just going to take this cover off and work our way down. So we'll take part by part off, starting with this cover until we get down to that EGR. But again, every time I do anything here, power steering reservoir has to come loose, and then I'll get this air hose, the intake down there, and then the pressure line from that turbo going to the intercooler. That one's from intercooler to intake manifold. And I think I'll be able to get it if I get that out of the way. If I have to remove the alternator or anything like that, then we'll do that. So we'll see, but hopefully, and I think we'll just need to do that one line there. All right, that's ready to go. We'll get it out of the way. We got to take the lid off here, and then I'll just kind of tuck it up here where this funnel is. And that was from the trip out here when we were leaking oil. I got this funnel because obviously you can't just pour oil into that sort of oil fill tube very easily. So we'll get this out of the way, and then we'll check back in. This is Ernest.
Hey buddy, what's up?
All right, now I'll get this intake line here, this side, off out of here, so I can get hopefully a little bit more room to reach my arm back there. This one's always the trickiest, to get this this intake to the turbo off, because there's a hose clamp back there. So we'll get this off. I may not be able to do it with one hand, so I'll just show you when it gets off. And then the EGR is right there, and I don't have to do anything else. I just talked to my buddy Trevor, who helped me out on this when I was doing the injectors. So shout out to Trevor. Thanks to Trevor. And we'll get the EGR out. It should just be that. So I'll probably take this off, some 8 millimeters here on this, go into the intake manifold. That way I can see it, and we'll pop it out of there. And I'll swing over by AutoZone here in a bit and grab that new EGR, and we'll just pop it in there. I'm not going to bypass this EGR. I've got to do emissions, and it's so much work to do it. So, yep, here we go. And you know what? I'm just accustomed to every time I was working on this, I had to take this off. I don't think I need to because it's out of the way here. I needed to get the, I needed to undo this side to get the other intake out, line out. But I don't think I need it to get down to this area here. So I'll get this part of the intake off, again, a couple 8mm, and then that EGR right behind it. All right, so I'm just about to get this. Man, you can really see how red my hand got on the camera. I'm about to get this intake off. I don't know what to call these different kinds on a turbocharged vehicle. There's like 3 different intake hoses, tubes, pipes. Probably a pipe. All right, so this one's loose. Here, you can see, and the EGR is behind it. Again, you can't see that yet, but I'll get this out and I'll show you the EGR down there. All right, no sense in removing this piece if I don't have to, so I just tucked it out of the way. And now you can see the first look at the EGR valve. There it is, 2 8mm bolts. It's about ready to come out, and this was caught on, I thought I had it all loose, but it was caught on this little bracket here that goes up to the oil fill neck and this other intake pipe. So the gasket looks fine on this, so I won't worry about that. And there's that EGR, so we'll pull it out, look at the gasket, and get the new one. I'll show you when it comes out. Sometimes they can get stuck, supposedly, so I got a pry bar if I need it. And again, we'll check that gasket. I'll probably just get a new gasket for it unless it looks like it's in good shape, which this one does. Here we go. All right, interestingly enough, I went down there with my wrench to loosen up this bolt. I didn't loosen it with my wrench, and you can see, if you can see, you can believe me, if not, that this is finger tight. So that's interesting. Makes me believe that maybe somebody was messing with the CGR, replaced that gasket on that intake already, didn't tighten this down, so whatever. I just want to be very careful not to drop anything down this hole in the intake. So I'm gonna hold on to that screw very tightly. Just place it up there out of the way, and we'll do that other one. All right, here we go. Just got the other bolt out. Oh, might be stuck. I can feel it wiggle a little. Let me break that loose with a screwdriver, and then I'll pull it out. All right, not super stuck. That's probably a sign there's a lot of carbon buildup in there, and it's not a new EGR valve. Oh yeah, oh, here's all that clumpiness. That's what I was wondering. In fact, that's exactly what I was thinking, since it had issues recently. Worse than ever, that a chunk of carbon broke off and wedged it, opened or closed. However this system worked, and that's exactly what happened. You can see there's a chunk of carbon that wedged that open, and that's why it's right now not really, it wasn't driving at all. I could clean this and it would work since it was working before. However, I'll probably just replace it since it was enough work to get down to it. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll just clean it and see. Let me just clean it and get this running. And plan on maybe just cleaning this every 50,000 miles or so. But yeah, it was stuck open. All right. Yeah, so you can see there, stuck open. I think the drive across the country probably just broke that carbon loose and obviously wedged that open. So I'm going to clean this up and yeah, just clean it up. We'll put it back in a minute. It should be good to drive back across town and everything. And yeah, good cleaner up and should work. All right, there it is, all cleaned up. Mostly got all that carbon out. Obviously it's going to build right back up. I just want to keep those big chunks out of there. Best way to do that, I think, from what I know, is to just drive it, you know, pretty extensively a few times. That doesn't make sense. The best way I know how to do that is just to drive it hard every now and then to kind of clean everything out. And so obviously driving across the country knocked all that loose, obviously. So we'll get this put back together. Should be just a few minutes, and we'll hit the road. And we'll see if this works. If not, then we'll go to AutoZone and get that other one. But this should do the trick. I just got the hoses tightened back up, air filter in place, and we'll put the bracket and that cover back on and see if this gives a little bit more power to us. All right, there we have it. That's a job well done. And we'll go on a drive here in a minute and see if it's got its power. We got it cleaned out, so that's the job I'm referring to, but I'm assuming that's gonna fix the problem. So overall, probably a job well done. All right, on the way home, here we are. Barely made it to AutoZone before it closed in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And what happened was, it was getting a little low on coolant, so I was topping it off so the heater would work when we were parked to sleep. And we were gonna, you know, get ready to pull over here in a bit anyways. So I filled up with gas because our light was on. We stopped and got something to eat. I dropped the hood down and we took off, and I started smelling coolant, and I was like, oh no, what's going on? And I thought, oh man, I didn't put the cap back on, and it started overheating. But luckily the next exit was like real close, so we pulled off. I put it in neutral and shut the truck off and coasted down to a gas station and popped the hood, and sure enough, the cap was off. So I stuffed this sock and glove in the cap, and I filled it up from the truck stop we parked at with some of their coolant, and we got it topped off. I'm gonna go ahead and just finish topping it off, but we made it across town. It was about a 10-minute drive, and I got a new cap here. AutoZone's gonna close here in about 10 minutes, so just in time. It's freezing out here, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this, and I'm in shorts because I've been driving, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this last little bit of coolant in there so it's topped off to the top full level, and then we'll hit the road probably for about another hour or two, and then pull over to sleep. So that's it. We're about 6-7 hours away from home now, so we'll be there probably about noon tomorrow.